Five in the Dugout is sponsored by Woods Basement Systems.
Mike, when I've been watching the last couple of games, the home run is kind of the big story from the pitching side. A lot of homers allowed by the Cardinals. Is that just the wind blowing out and then moving the fences in at Roger Dean a little bit, or what are you seeing from the pitching staff here?
Well, this is a couple of days where the pitchers got the ball up a little bit. For the most part, they've been pretty good. But recently, they've gotten the ball up in the strike zone, and we've had some gale force winds here in Florida. And I know it's easy to say, well, if the other team's doing it, why aren't we doing it? And it's just the luck of the draw for the most part. But overall, pitching's been pretty good. The bullpen has been very good. And there's going to be some tough decisions to be made on who you bring north with you because no one has pitched themselves out of the bullpen or off the roster yet. So it may be a situation where you're going to have to get creative in making sure you have the best 26 as you leave, and that could change in 2 weeks or 3 weeks once the season is underway.
You've seen a lot of spring trainings, and I know it's easy to get wrapped up in when you just look at the stats and that kind of thing, and then you got to remind yourself it's spring training. But are we at the point where it would be really nice to start seeing, especially some of those regulars, start to pump up some of those numbers a little bit?
I think we have about another week. I always try and evaluate spring trainings in the final 10 days, the final 10 games. You have a better idea who you are. You're a little bit more cohesive as far as what the lineups look like, who you're batting around. The pitching is a little bit better because the other teams are trying to get themselves ready for the season also. So the final 10, 12 games is a better barometer on where you're headed compared to where you've been.
How do you think the battle for some spots on the bench looks right now? Jose Barrero, a guy they brought in, has played pretty well in spring training, and just seeing him in person for a couple days when I was down there, he's a pretty imposing physical specimen. Does he have a chance? How do you see maybe the bench shaping up?
Oh, I think he has a great chance. I mean, you mentioned imposing specimen. He's 6'4", he's 215 pounds, 26 years old. The bat has always been a question about him because he was a top prospect in the Cincinnati organization. But, some guys mature a little later. The question for him will be, if he's not going to play every day, how do you get him at bats? How do you get him on the field, especially in the month of April where you have so many off days and you really don't get into a routine? It's hard to teach a 26-year-old how to be a pinch hitter and how to be a utility guy because he has good talent. There's no doubt about that. And maybe this is an opportunity for him, but they have to find a way to keep him engaged where he can at least be in the lineup more than just one day a week.
Talked about the bullpen a little bit. I know Gordon Graceffo went today, not the greatest day for him. How do you see kind of these guys that have been kind of hype starters at the minor league level? Do you see the Cardinals wanting to give them a chance in the bullpen if they could get them in the major leagues? We've seen it work out with Matthew Liberatore, who's settled into his role nicely.
Well, Graceffo is probably slated for the bullpen with regard to his ascension to eventually being a starter. As far as Quinn Matthews, McGreevy, they're going to let those guys remain starters throughout their careers. Graceffo, like everybody else, got touched up a little bit today, but nothing that he can't overcome. He's still learning how to pitch in the big leagues, and that's what spring training is for, learning how to pitch when maybe you don't have your best stuff, learning how to pitch around an error or a mistake somewhere behind you, and learning how to pitch to big leaguers. That's the other thing, because big leaguers, that pitch you used to think is a really good pitch that you could get people out with, those guys don't even swing at that. They wait for you to throw something to them, and you have to make sure you don't take up too much of the middle of the plate. So with regard to the bullpen, I think there's one spot open right now, and I think there are 3 or 4 guys vying for that spot. There may be a spot on the right side of the bullpen. The left side seems like it's pretty much sold up. When you think about JoJo, you think about John King, you think about Matthew Liberatore. Other than that, there's some other guys that are knocking at the door, but I think the right side of the bullpen is still up for question.
Last thing from me, center field wise, when I was down there, Lars Nootbaar was getting a lot of play, especially on the backfields, perfecting his craft in center field. Do you think that's still something the Cardinals are prioritizing, or has Victor Scott and maybe changed their minds a little bit?
Right now, Victor Scott's the best defensive outfielder they have, period. I mean, he's making plays this year that he may have been able to make last season, but this year the confidence is there, the positioning is there. He's not just running to balls, he's running routes to the balls where he can get a lot more things done He has a pretty good throwing arm, and he's throwing to the right bases, making the cutoffs, doing all the things that fundamentally you would hope a young man would be able to do. So there may be some thinking about where Lars may play compared to Victor Scott, or maybe it's more of a situational issue where, depending on who they're facing, depending on the time of the game, on whether you want to have your best defenders out there, Victor Scott's got to be in that conversation.